What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Passionate DJ Podcast. I'm your host, David Michael. I'm here with my homie and my co-host, Mr. Tony DeCero.
What up?
And we're here with Matt Masin. Welcome.
What's going on, guys?
You're a special guest today, and you are doing direct support for the Up and Up Festival that is happening here in Dayton, Ohio. So we're actually going to do this kind of in two parts. We're going to cut away to the pre-interview that we did before the show. We're going to talk a little bit about what Up and Up Festival is. I'll read a quick thing about it here real quick, but we'll talk a little bit about like how it came to be, why it was in Dayton, what both of your roles were in that, and then we'll cut back here to the studio and talk about how it went after the fact. So, sound good?
Yeah,
cool.
All right, so the Up and Up Festival. So if you look on the website under About Us, it says, the Monster Energy Up and Up Festival is a pre-sale competition for students across the country to bring a top emerging artist to perform at their school. The Up and Up's innovative guerrilla ticketing system is simple. Students crowdsource demand on their campuses leading up to a 48-hour competition period, and the top colleges with the most pre-orders win a festival. So the series launched in 2016 with the headliner Cash Cash and expanded nationwide into in 2017 and 18, featuring Alan Walker, GRYFFIN, Two Friends, and Slushii, respectively. So they talk a little bit more about it on the website. You can look it up at upandupfestival.com. And they have kind of an interesting, see if I can find it here, had like a timeline. So they talk about how the festival kind of went this year. So in May 27th, students started applying online. July 22nd, Elephante was announced as the headliner for the tour. August 28th, they unveiled the competing colleges. September 10th, the 48-hour competition went live. And then October and November, 5 college festivals happen. So pretty interesting concept. Let's cut away, and we're going to actually be at the venue, which is Mask. We recorded at in the basement where there's actually some dressing rooms down there. Recorded a pre-interview and then come back and talk about how it went.
Cool.
There you go.
See you guys.
Whoosh. Cool. So thanks for joining us, Matt. It's good to have you here and on the show. Tony, thanks for hooking this up, buddy.
Absolutely, man.
So, Matt, introduce yourself, if you don't mind, to the audience and tell us just a little bit about yourself and what you do as a performer and why you're here.
Cool. So I'm Matt Masin. I'm from Long Island, New York. I started DJing about a year and a half ago. I played my first big show, I would say. It was this time last year. That's when I met Tony. And I'm here playing Up and Up Festival and direct support to Elephante. And it's just nice to be back in Dayton.
That's a pretty sweet gig. Yeah. So tell one of you, I'm not sure who wants to jump in, but tell us a little bit about what Up and Up actually is. Like, what is that concept and how did it come here?
You want to do it? You want me to do it?
Go for it.
I got it. So Up and Up is a nationwide competition, and what they do, their mission is they try to foster a sense of community through these schools, through music, and they throw a competition that is they announce an artist, and then they have a bunch of hype leading up to that artist. They do a 2-day competition, so they release pre-sales to a bunch of different schools. I think the number of schools normally ranges from 40 to 60. Not sure how many schools to compete, but they run the competition, and whatever schools, it's also a varying number depending on the artist and how they set it up, but it's normally 4 to 6 schools, and they'll travel, they'll bring the festival to your campus, and it's really cool. It's the students have the power to bring it in. So yeah.
Wow, so it ended up here in Dayton.
Yeah.
As the contest winners.
Yep. So when I was in school in Dayton, we actually kind of pioneered the festival here. So me and my really good buddy Drew, him and I just tackled the ambassadorship for Dayton, and that was last fall for Two Friends.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that was just our real big jump into the music industry. That's where we got our feet wet, per se. And then,
and remind me again how you guys came to know each other. You said you met about a year ago?
Yeah.
We met at Up and Up, actually. Chris
okay.
Which is, the group that I manage. They were playing direct support that year, and Matt and Drew I had to find out who these two kids were that got 1,500 people in Dayton to come out for Two Friends. I was fucking mind blown. And Crystal Grid, they got asked to play, and I'm on the stage, and I was asking when they were doing sound check how many tickets were sold. And I forget who I was talking to, but they said 2,000. I was just like, you mean 200? No, 2,000. And it was great. And I had to know who the guys were that put it together. And it just happened to be him, which is direct support. And he did a hell of a job. Or not direct support, I'm sorry. He was before Crystal Grid.
Okay.
And he did a hell of a job as well. Great stage presence, hype. It was great, So that's how I came across Matt. And then I sat down with Matt and Drew and said, who can we bring to Dayton that would sell Mask out? And Lost Kings was the first words out of their mouth. So we booked the Lost Kings, and I gave them our 3-dimensional Instagram login. They did all the promotion, everything for the show, on that level. And we did 700 people on a Thursday night for Lost Kings, and just great guy altogether. He kind of reminded me of myself when I was younger. Mm-hmm. We got to connect. He asked me to help him out with some CDJs the night before Lost Kings, and
Yeah.
Real quick before we move on, can you guys, just because I'm paranoid, make sure these switches are up on your... Okay, cool.
I'm on.
Cool. And just make sure we're talking straight into the mic here.
Sure.
I'm watching the meters over there, making sure they're moving. So
Sweet.
Cool. So, Lost Kings and Crystal Grid, so that whole thing was the origin of you guys kind of...
The first Up and Up Music Festival in Dayton was our origin.
The first Up and Up. Okay, so it's Dayton has won the contest twice, or
Yeah.
Yes.
This is the second time around.
how does the contest get won? It's by selling tickets.
It's so whatever schools among like the vast majority of them that are competing, whichever ones can pull the most pre-sales in, and then from there, it's kind of like you have like a couple of weeks to set up venue, everything. I mean, I'm sure Tony could speak on the back behind the scenes strings of it, but they really do a great job, and they do it for a bunch of schools.
Wow, and we did that twice, huh? That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, the one that we were involved in with the ambassadorship, we sold, I think it was 1,100 tickets in 48 hours.
Holy moly.
And it was just an incredible campaign to be a part of, because the whole campus really got behind it. And it was just something that was so interesting to see, because like I said before, like Up and Up speaks on how they bring this sense of community, and like UD prides itself on that community. It's in their mantra, it's their staple. And being able to like see these two groups combine to create that festival, and just like there was something about that night that it felt like there was just some sort of magic like in the air. It was just such an awesome event. I was so happy to be a part of it. And now a year later, I'm sitting down with you guys. It's just that event opened like a bunch of doors. I was able to make so many new great relationships that was given to me because of like this festival.
And that's great.
I have nothing but good things to say about it.
Mind you, it was 48 degrees and lightweight raining out the first week of November.
That makes a difference.
It was cold, and there was still 1,500 kids there.
What was the venue?
It was the Levitt Pavilion.
Okay, the
Yeah.
Levitt.
Great
So
venue.
you guys decided to do it indoors this time.
Yep. I mean, I didn't have any say in that, but however they did it, whatever the behind the scenes was on it. I'm excited though. I think that it's cool because this festival like can adapt, because I think tonight's going to be a completely different show just because of the venue, and obviously the art's different, but the feel of it, that you go from Levitt to like that outdoor, the production on that is so different than Mask, and I think it's just going to bring a different element, but it's so cool because the branding is the same. It's still an Up and Up festival.
Yeah.
So
we started to touch on that a little bit pre-show, and we were kind of chatting behind the booth, and it is kind of neat because it gets to stay in brand, and you get to kind of do what the brand's supposed to be doing, but at the same time give a different experience than the last time, and it kind of gives a new set of memories for people to sort of attach to and remember, and like, oh, that was the Up and Up that was at Mask or whatever.
Yeah.
And if you're going to do an indoor anything, this is a great venue to do it. You've got great sound, great lights, and all that. So what time do you go on?
I go on at 10:15. My set's from 10:15 to 11.
Okay. Have you ever played here before?
I have. So my first experience with Mask was before we even really got involved with Up and Up.
Okay.
And kind of like my journey to where I'm at right now in just the musical realm. when I was in school here, my really good friend Chad, he was a DJ. He was really experienced from Indy, and he came and he joined my fraternity, and he would DJ all the parties. And I was like just starting to get into EDM at that point, where I was like checking out a few festivals and really starting to see the genre for what it was. And when he brought a Pioneer, it was the DVJ, it was the SB2. The SB2, I'm pretty sure, that we were talking about earlier. When he brought that, I was like so mesmerized by it. You know, like you have this fraternity party going on, and I could not leave like his side, just watching him twist the knobs and everything. Suddenly
in control of the music in a different sort of way.
Yeah, like the way I like to liken it best is, and I'm playing music, and I think this stands true for DJs, you're able to connect with the crowd and have a different type of experience with people where it's almost like having a conversation musically. And the connection that I feel with the people in the audience, like just being able to control the vibe of a room and really, really affect what the crowd is feeling, it's something that I don't think you can get anywhere else. It's just such a unique feeling. And to see him do that in a fraternity party, it got me. Like,
so that made an impression on you.
Definitely. Yeah. And I started to just pick up on him. I'd start to see like how he was controlling and like what he was doing. And I ended up picking up an intro board, and I would just mess around with that a little bit. But that semester, at the end of that semester, Chad left to go to Icon. So he left Dayton to enroll in Icon, and he didn't need his SB2. So he left it with me, and he's like, I really think you could do some cool things with this. You know, you're the
created
only
a monster. Huh?
Yeah, something like that, I guess. And so yeah, I had it that summer, and at the turn of the semester, in the fall semester, I came in to Luke, and I asked if there was anyone playing the college nights at Mask. And I played him like 10, 15 minutes of a sample set, and he said, all right, like, you're booked. And that's when I really started seeing the club life and the atmosphere at Mask. So I got penned up in here. Yeah, I got penned up in here. I think it was September, the beginning of September. And it was just the craziest show because it was the first real show, because I had played like a little bit at like basements of parties and stuff and just kind of watched, spectated, played a little. But the first like real show, just to have that moment, and like on campus too, like all my friends got behind me and we really blasted it out. I made my Instagram after that show. Like I hired a videographer. He came in, did like a little piece. And it was so cool. It was the experience just that really like set me off. And then I started doing the shows at Mask more consistently, like the college nights. And I remember sitting down with Luke. It was like five or six deep. And not drinks, shows. Like
very different conversation.
Yeah. And I told him what we were doing with two friends, and that was like the budding idea right there. But I don't think that. We were in a club, and it was the only time we really spoke about it. But I don't think that he thought, nor did I really think, what was going to come out of it, like that show at Levitt. It was mind blowing. I didn't expect it. I don't think he expected it when I told him about it. And Tony, didn't he call you? Or you
he drove by.
Yeah, he drove by.
He drove by.
Yeah.
We talked about it after the fact. Yeah, I was texting him a little bit here and there. I was speechless.
Something. It really was. But yeah, so I'm excited to be back at Mask tonight. It's going to be really nice being behind the decks here.
Yeah. So how would you describe your sound? Like, how do you approach your sets musically?
I like when I have events like this one, or like Lost Kings. When we brought Lost Kings here, I was direct support for them. I like to structure it in a way where I can like kind of prep for the artist to really like build that crowd to the point where they're high and ready to take on, for tonight's case, Elephante.
Yeah.
That was something that I spoke with Tony at length, just like trying to capture that vibe, that essence. Like, it's being direct support there. You have you're there to do a job.
Yeah, you have a certain responsibility.
Yeah, you're there. And so I like to start out with like a techie house, like a deep house, and just kind of take the crowd in for that, for like just kind of get the floor moving.
So you like to set like a four to the floor tempo?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, four to the floor.
Get that pace going.
Yeah.
Okay.
And once I'm like 10, 15 minutes in, like for tonight, 10, 15 minutes into a 45-minute set, I'll start to bring it up a little more with like some harder progressive house and then electro house mixed in. So I'll do transitions between progressive and electro. And then toward the end, I really like to use like the last 10 minutes of the set to bring the energy up and speed up the tempo, kind of those hard electric house. And then I'll play like trap, dubstep and hard style for the last 10 minutes and just kind of get the crowd like amped up, ready. So then that energy is just peak for that.
Get their bass face on.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how I structure the performances and stuff. Yeah.
So I'm curious. I mean, do you think that you would have approached your set any differently had this been an outdoor event again? Does the venue kind of come into play for you, or do you kind of, I guess, do you prioritize your sound or the place you're at?
I would say
that makes sense.
I would say I definitely prioritize the sound.
Okay.
But it's interesting that you say that, because to be honest, I never even thought of that before you just brought it up. So now I'm thinking about it and thinking about the different elements of a show, like the flexibility that I would have to be able to probably use a mic at will and get out on stage, like during a lull in my transitions, like to really get out there and capture the crowd and bring that energy up. You're offered something different. So now that you brought that up, I think that that's something I might use going forward. You know, taking the venue into consideration.
Sure.
Yeah.
And what is the setup that you play on? What are you playing on tonight, and what do you prefer to play on if those are different?
Yeah. Tonight I'm playing on the house CDJs.
Okay.
That Mask has, and they're insane pieces of equipment. It's not every day you get to play on CDJs, especially for me. So it's I feel like spoiled.
Yeah.
You know, I feel spoiled.
This is a good place to feel spoiled.
Yeah, yes, definitely. So I'm playing on the CDJs.
That in itself is a good thing, because a lot of people, they won't alleviate from their controller. You know, you've been playing a year and a half and you say you can't wait to play on CDJs instead of being nervous coming up saying I have to play on my controller. You know what I mean? That shows a lot to me.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, and I was in that position. You know, it was before Lost Kings. That was the first show that I actually played on CDJs, and like Tony said, the night before, when just asked him like, they come in and just kind of give me some tips and tricks on these. I learned so much on them, and I just feel like there's a vibe of professionalism that comes with that. You know, to be able to step into a club and use what I would consider to be industry standard. For the big names and everything, just to be able to adapt to that and not back off because of the extra challenge.
Now, props for you for taking that on so earlier in your journey, because so many people, to Tony's point, either never do or they get dragged kicking and screaming into it. So that's huge that you did that. And when you're at home, do you use Rekordbox, or where do you live there?
When I'm in Long Island, I sent the SB2 back to Chad.
Okay.
Or the SE2 back to Chad. And now I use my intro board, which is, I'm pretty sure, I honestly, it's the very small one. It's the one that I got.
The Pioneer?
Yeah, the Pioneer, the SB3 maybe.
Okay.
The SB2.
Is that a Serato?
Yep.
Okay,
Gotcha.
gotcha.
Serato enthusiast.
Yeah.
I push
a lot of our audience are Serato
yeah,
enthusiasts.
Big Serato guy. So whenever I'm just mixing, or even if I don't have access to the board, something that I found that I've been able to do is just pull up Serato and use the W and the S key to keep like both tracks playing.
Okay.
And sometimes, like if I'm just chilling, I don't really want to get the equipment out, plug into speakers, whatever. I just want to listen off the laptop speakers. I found that I can strike gold on that, just plugging in the right songs and just it's like this sounds good together. Same. Yeah. So I think the Serato's really cool that you're offered that extra ability. You know, just you want to DJ on your laptop, you can. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So direct support tonight.
Yeah.
So 45 minutes. That's not a lot of time to say a lot.
But it is, though.
It is. I guess it's not from when you come at it from the context of like techno.
Right, techno or house. No, it's not. It's about 5 or 6 songs.
Yeah. So like, what is your mixing style like? Do you do a lot of fast cuts? Are you effects heavy? Do you like to do long blends? What are you into when it comes to mixing?
I'd say, just looking at my style from just an outsider perspective, I'd say I'm really big into like 8-bar cuts. I'll do 16 is probably the max. I don't really do long transitions just because I feel like it doesn't blend with the sound that I try to achieve.
Sure.
Like, you know, the music, the feel that I try to create. I stay away from that.
It's hard to do with that kind of music.
Yeah,
for sure.
And I really like running. I like running drops at the same time, build ups at the same time, and cutting to drops. Like
cool,
I think that especially build ups that use vocals, run that with the build ups that doesn't use vocals, and just choose whatever drop really suits. I think it just adds that extra element. I really do enjoy doing that, and I just say 8 bars and. Like those build-up transitions.
Yeah.
I really like doing that stuff.
So in less than a year and a half, starting at Up and Up, 1,500 people.
Yeah.
Lost Kings, 700. Dayton to Daytona, how many would you say there? 3,000?
Probably 2 to
3,000 people. And now you're flying back to Dayton, Ohio to open up for Elephante. Like, what are you expecting for tonight?
It's been a wild ride. That's
In a year and a half. That's a lot.
Yeah.
You're fitting a lot of work into a short amount of time.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of good experience that you're just really, I mean, you're hitting the ground running. It's really cool to hear it, actually.
Yeah. I mean, it's been so crazy just the amount of time that's passed, and I see myself like pushing past these, I'd like to call them milestones in my music career in this journey. And tonight I feel like it's going to be somewhat of a homecoming, just coming back to Dayton. You know, I feel like one of the selling points for this show, aside from obviously Elephante being the national headliner, was in a text blast a couple of friends had told me that Up and Up had sent out Elephante and Masin returning to Dayton, and that hit me in the heart. Like, wow, like I'm important enough to be included in the text message that they send out, the text blast.
That's great. That's awesome.
But yeah, it feels like I'd liken it to a homecoming, and I'm just excited to get out there with just so many people that I've had so many great experiences with on campus, and to be able to get them here, just have everyone. I think it's gonna be a great time. Expectations are high.
Awesome.
Well, buddy, you've been very generous with your time. I know you've got a lot to do, but I did want to ask, maybe to kind of wrap this up. We spoke a little bit about your approach to your sets musically.
Yeah.
What is your musical background, if any? What did you kind of grow up listening to? Did you play any instruments? And then the part 2 of that question would be, what do you listen to when you're not DJing?
Okay. So my musical background. So I come from a family of singers. I wouldn't say family. My mom is an avid singer. My dad, he was a singer. They kind of like sang duets together. And
Similar.
Yeah. They had a very nice vocal blend. So I always grew up around that music, and I had just
My parents
this
were in
big,
choir and cantatas and all that.
Yeah, I had this big Italian family.
Okay.
And my grandmother, who I lived with my Grammy and my granddad for since I was born. You know, I grew up always around them. And my Grammy I was 52, but don't quote me on that. I could have the year wrong. She won Miss New York City in this nationwide TV thing, and then she flew to Chicago. And one of her her talent, she's a singer and an accordionist, and so music always, and even my aunts, my uncles, my cousins, it's always something that's been very important to our family. And growing past that, I started to sing at masses, like I was a cantor at the Catholic masses, yep. And my mom got me into that. She's very religious also, so she really pushed me through the door there, and that was my first experience really getting in front of a crowd. So I was like 14, 15 years old, leading musical liturgy for parishioners. And I've had my moments there, with those nerve-wracking moments, almost like tonight, where it's like Christmas Eve Mass, and the hall is packed out.
But you've been in sort of a music leadership kind of role before.
Yeah, and it's like, growing past that, coming to Dayton, the music side of me almost got shelved for a little bit because just life, and being able to be exposed to Chad and just watching him DJ and having that exposition, it was like, I want this. I feel like this is something that I can do, and like I gravitated toward it very hard. That's really my background. I also took a music production course in high school.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
Yep. So it was like a music theory course, and everyone had their own like workstation. Everyone was put in front of a Mac and like a pull-out keyboard under the desk. And it was like 40 minutes a day where,
oh, wow.
where we'd
That's
go
pretty neat.
and we'd do that stuff. And interestingly enough, one of the people that I had class with, he signed to Interscope Records. Is Drama Relax. He's really talented singer, rapper. He's like on the up and coming. And it's just cool seeing like from that hometown, you know, people going and like taking the stuff that they learned in the classroom and using it, you know, to that scale. Like props to him.
What kind of software did you live in there?
We used GarageBand to start, and then we moved to Logic.
Moved into Logic. Yeah, that makes sense.
Into Logic.
Yeah.
And they had like a little recording studio in the back too. So for like my final project, I kind of remastered a Michael Bublé song and then recorded live vocals in the back over it. And
cool.
Yeah, so that was a cool little experience. But yeah, I think that's the extent of my music background. I never played an instrument. Like I never took like instrumental classes other than that music theory class. But there was a grand piano in my house, and it was my Grammy's piano. And growing up, she taught me how to play.
Okay.
So I have a little bit of piano knowledge.
I gotcha.
Like chords, and if you put like a sheet music in front of me, I could pick the chords out and struggle through the song. Yeah. And I'm sorry.
What do you like to listen to when you're not performing? Would be the part two.
So it varies. I really like live sets just because I like listening to how other DJs blend together.
Yeah.
Like what their style is.
Like research.
Yeah, exactly.
Or inspiration, maybe.
And so I'm very big into like listening to live sets. I consider myself to listen more to live sets than I do to like a playlist.
Okay.
Or, like Apple Music, Spotify, that stuff. I really like seeing like the blend of how other people like myself would attack putting together a set in an environment. And because
new context.
Yeah. For me, it's like dance music and EDM, it's so much bigger than just the songs. And it's like environmental. You know, this guy's playing at Ultra. What is he bringing to the table at Ultra, as opposed to if he was playing the same in like if he was playing Tomorrowland, or if he was playing like a small room. Yeah, or here, right. So it's very I really like listening to live sets. I would say the one artist that's pulled me away from that completely in recent time is Zillennium.
Okay.
And that man, he's such an inspiration. His story, who he was and how he grew to the point where he is right now. And I feel like his music just pulls on the heartstrings. And really, like, even his most recent album, I had the chance to go to Marquee in New York City and see his after party for it. But the way that man plays and how he evokes emotion through his songs is like I'm at a loss for words over it. But what kills me even more is like I just spoke on the live sets. I'll listen to something that he threw together for Ultra, or like an Excision Millennium back-to-back at Lost Lands, and he takes these songs that just pull the emotion, but these drops and the way he amazes me. So I'd say that Millennium's pulled me out of that like live set feel. Huge Millennium fan. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Matt, thank you so much for being here, man.
Thank you guys
for being on Passionate DJ.
No, definitely. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, take a breather.
A wild ride. Yeah.
Maybe have a beer.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe like a single beer.
Maybe one. Yeah, maybe two if we're pushing it. But
I know you've got a lot to do too, Tony, so we'll let you guys go, but thank you so much.
And pick up a mic.
Yeah, let's head over to Moe's.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you guys so much for having
me. Thank you, fellas.
And, have a good show.
Thank you.
Okay, so we are back here in studio, and so I want to talk about this kind of from both of your perspectives, what your how things went overall for the night, from your perspective as a direct support DJ, and from your perspective as behind the scenes making the gears turn and all that. So I guess we'll start with you, Matt. So one thing that I'd like to touch on is in the interview we talked about your approach to your set. And I said, do you think that you would have played it differently if it were in a different, were it smaller or bigger or something like that? Mm-hmm. and you responded that it wasn't something that you would put a lot of thought into. You just kind of, your sound was your sound.
Yeah.
And so I wonder, now having played that room, how you felt about the sound and its role in the night, if that makes sense. So now that it's happened, are you happy with the results?
Yeah, I feel that just going off of the way that I planned the set and the sound that I tried to achieve, I felt that it was a really big hit, and I also feel like the venue itself built on the sound, because a lot of the set that I had played, especially toward like the meat of it, was a lot of electro house, and I felt like the sound system and just the atmosphere really amplified what I was trying to go for, and I felt like that was well received with the crowd too, where it was really, you could see that energy just going, and the lights and the CO2 and everything, just it was great. I think that I think it hit it on the head.
That's cool. So do you feel that, like, let's say we're the same venue but none of the lights were on, there's like a single light bulb in the center of the room or something like that, which would be weird.
Yeah.
But
that would be techno.
It would be very techno. Yeah, it'd be very rave.
Yeah.
But would you still wish to have approached your set in the same way?
I definitely think that if that were the scenario, if we were dealing with the twitchy light bulb, I would probably have pulled back on the electro house and tried to set more of like a vibe that could be carried from. I probably would have built on BPMs a little more, maybe started a lot slower, and just kind of taken the crowd on a ride.
Gotcha. So tempo would come into play for you. You would slow it down a little bit, or at least slow it down for longer.
Yeah.
And then ramp it up more gradually.
Yep. Okay,
so that's interesting. So, what do you mean on the other point as far as how did you put it?
I don't remember the exact wording, but
I don't either. I didn't want to misquote you.
I would say that like just being able to take it from the point of tempo, and also the genre of house that I would go
electro house.
Yeah, right. And go sift through.
So you would change the genre that you were playing, or is it like an energy level? Is it the type of sound or synths that are playing?
Yeah.
What is it that you would want different?
What I've found in through the time that I've been doing this is that I've seen that for the most part, a lot of the tracks that I'm exposed to, the subgenre is really telling on the energy level. So
Gotcha.
I've always felt that a lot of the electro house and a lot of places where I get my music is I'm subscribed to BPM Supreme. So as I'm listening for new tunes and trying to pick out songs that might be good fits, they have the subgenre listed and they have like the key and everything. But if I see a song's electro house and I'm looking for that energy, and even if it's by an artist that I don't really know, I'm definitely going to give it a listen through the drop.
Got it. So you're saying that you would probably change the genre, but just because that's kind of how you determine the energy level.
Yep. Yeah.
That's pretty interesting, because I think that is probably something that's maybe more true now than it used to be, at least as far as Beatport, where it would be like you could look up electro house, but you could have pretty minimalist electro house, and then that kind of changed probably, as we started heading towards like 2010. But
Chris Lake do they consider him electro house?
I feel like they had a lot of his stuff under like deep house, and just.
But he's still got an electro sound.
Yeah.
He meshes his stuff with the newer sounds. So.
But it is.
And I haven't been to Beatport in a while though.
Yeah. Well, that's fair. I haven't either. But
I've never heard of it.
That's fair. So that's interesting, because I guess it does make sense. Like in a modern context, it's almost like we're talking about playing EDM, and electro house is a certain level of energy, and deep house is a certain level of energy, and maybe tech house is some level of energy, and that's almost how that gets categorized anymore. And I've never really thought about it, and that's not how I tend to think about it.
It does, but I feel also that generations, our style of tech house is different than their style of tech house.
I think that's what I'm acknowledging. Yeah. That's fascinating.
Yeah. I mean, something great that's come of it for me that I've been able to notice is that vetting for these subgenres, I'm now able to take an idea of a set and what I kind of want to achieve going into it, and have like a really wide roadmap. And it gives me the opportunity to go through these songs, and there might be a song there that was written or produced by an artist, and I would have never given it a look because I just maybe didn't know who the artist was. But now that I'm looking for that sound, I might stumble across a gem. And it's nice because I'm now able for myself to really open up my musical palette. It helps me learn about new music and new artists that I never even knew existed.
I was stuck on that for years. Like, it was either a specific label.
I was going to say I didn't do labels.
Yeah.
And that's definitely different generationally, between generations of DJs.
There's so much music that comes out now that...
Yeah. And label means something different than it did. They were almost... Like the DJ was a level of curator, and then the label was a level of curator, and there was all these, and it's just a different world, in this digital landscape. It just doesn't work the same way.
Right.
Everyone's kind of a label and kind of a promotion company, and kind of an everything.
Did you deviate from your set at all?
No, I didn't really have to.
Okay.
There were only a couple of points where, I never deviated from the song structure, but I brought songs in at different points that I just had to, because whether I got caught up in the music or the sound, places that I wanted to bring them in, I couldn't. I just had to kind of switch things up on the fly.
Right. I noticed the guys that played before you, they played pretty heavy bass music. Yep. And they were draining it. That's for sure, and you came in and you brought that house, and it was just a complete different vibe from that point on. And it was, not that their vibe wasn't good, people were into it, but where you took it to Elephante, you did a good job.
I appreciate that, Tony. Thank you.
And he's not blowing smoke. He commented to me on the side. He was like, I kind of dig this sound. I was like, yeah, me too.
I appreciate that, guys. Thank you.
So from your perspective, Tony, the one thing that I saw, and by the way, we're going to release some other additional YouTube content about the night.
Oh, cool.
We started a series called Day of the Big Show. And so that was why I was tagging along, following Tony everywhere that night while he was working, trying to stay out of his way, shooting video and stuff. Yeah. So that'll be coming to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/passionatedj. But anyhow, the thing that I saw when I was following you around, the big problem right before the show was microphone issues. So we showed up, and was it Elephante that needed to use the mics? And we showed up and they weren't working properly. Right. And so that was kind of like the panic moment, right before the show. How did that go, and how did you resolve that?
At first it went shitty. We couldn't figure out because their wireless receiver was plugged into their Function 1 mixer. It was just the other mic. When you would turn both of them on, you would hear a mic. You would turn one of them off, you wouldn't hear either mic. And even when you barely turned it up, it was just constant feedback. So instead of me dealing with that, I just reached into the network, which Mo, called him up. Well, I didn't even think of Mo at first. I called Nathaniel at Therapy first, because we had the same issue with Lost Kings. They used the mic. They didn't sing on it, which Elephante was singing on it. They were just doing a couple shout outs and whatever, and they just turned it down and it was fine, whatever. But this guy was going to sing, and I didn't want to mess with anything or try and rewire their stuff. I wanted to get something that I knew was legit, was going to work. So
and side note, the way the venue's set up, it pretty much has to be a wireless mic, because if he's going to go out and interact with the crowd at all, because the DJ booth is, while it's very close to the crowd, it's very inaccessible to the crowd. It's not like you can just hop over or jump on the booth, or it's not really set up that way. Right. So wireless was key. So we needed to get that working. Yep.
So I just reached out to the network, and then I don't know if it was you or if it just hit me, but I was like, wait a minute, Mo has to have a wireless mic, having a mobile DJ rig and a setup and whatever. So I called him up, and he was working out and he couldn't come. So we ran to his place and got his big ass backpack, and it was huge, and I was just thinking it was just going to be a small receiver.
Right. You didn't realize it was it's at least a one.
It was a rack mount. Yeah. With a power conditioner in it, and his XLRs were only, I think, 4 or 6 feet long. Yeah, they were short. and I couldn't put that pack up on the decks because there was no room whatsoever in that booth to put that thing. And even if there was room, aesthetically, it would have looked like shit. So
it was so funny. So we were trying to, right before that, you had scheduled an interview with you, Matt, and we were trying to get down there to do the recording, but this was happening right when we were supposed to be recording. And so we were kind of waiting and kind of like, and Tony was like, you might have to go without me. And we were waiting till the last minute, and I knew that you had things to do. And so all that's going on. And then finally it turned out that it was good that we had kind of a mobile podcasting setup there, because I had, 25-foot heavy duty braided XLR cables that we actually needed to use to test that rig and get it going. So
you should have got that on footage. Us messing with those cables, trying to get it into Tony for the day of the big show.
Oh yeah, out in the parking lot.
Yeah.
So Matt and I were out there out in the parking lot, and because we were in such a rush trying to get things going, I had just grabbed all those cables after we were done with that interview, and I just threw them in the back of my trunk, and I was like, I'll sort this out later. And then Tony's like, I need XLRs. Shit. So we go up there, get it out of the trunk, and we're like standing 10 feet apart trying to untangle the spaghetti in the middle of the parking lot before we go in. And
I can imagine, because just one of those, I was trying to wrap one up and I had to like twist it.
It was a self-induced problem, I fully admit, but
you probably just didn't know later was going to be like an hour later.
Right. I thought I'd be like casually sitting in here. And
right.
So, anyways.
No, but having said all that, it worked out. Reached out to Mo. We went to Mo's, got it. Luckily, Elephante was only staying a block away, so they went back to the hotel and met us back at the club at 8:30, and that's when that whole XLR scenario went down.
And he stayed pretty chill and cool about everything, all things considered, that this was like kind of a requirement for his set.
Right,
and we were like at the last minute like, oh, it'll be fine.
Right. So, it worked out, I always talk about the network, and it's definitely the net worth.
It was funny when I was kind of tagging along with you guys, in the back seat while you're driving around running errands, and you had to stop by and feed your dog real quick, the whole thing. And I was like, this is why Tony lives downtown.
Right.
Like, because you were able to just bam, 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 knock that stuff out.
Yeah.
In less than an hour, we were back there and things were going. That was pretty cool. So were there any other problems that I missed because I was down setting up? Any other
Not
snags?
at all.
Everything went pretty smoothly during the show.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So how, back to you, Matt, how was the I'll say the crowd response to your set? I mean, I know you said you were happy, but I'm assuming that's because
they kind of go hand in hand.
Right.
But no, I felt that I got a really good reception, and it's always great just putting yourself up there, being in that position. The amount of nerves that fly through your head, at least for me. How is this going to be received? I put a lot of work and effort into this product, and now I'm just kind of like giving my hard work to a crowd, and it's just such a great feeling.
You talked about the pre-gig jitters a little bit before the show. I hope I'm not blowing your spot up.
No, not at all. Those are very real.
Yeah. So how long did it take you to shake that once you were behind the decks, or did you?
Once Tony was setting everything up, switching things back and forth, I had I'm pretty sure I said in the pre-interview, my first song that I played was like almost a 2-minute edit. So I didn't even really, once I hit play on that first song, I had some time to really get there, get accustomed. Tony did whatever he had to do, and then once I hit the first 2 or 3 transitions, they were all like deep house transitions. It just felt great because they flowed into each other. It almost felt like it was just a 10-minute song.
That's exactly my experience in that same room.
Yeah.
Like once I hit that second or third transition, I'm like, oh, that's right, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah,
why am I freaking out?
I wouldn't be here if I didn't know what I was doing. But I think that the crowd reception was great, and once I was up there playing, it was so great to be back at Mask, back in Dayton, and it just felt like a homecoming.
So this is, you're at what, 1 year of doing this, or more than a year?
Yeah, my first show was last November, but
okay.
I'd say I started like DJing, tinkering around with a board about a year and a half ago.
Got it. So you've built like quite a resume in that amount of time.
Yeah, I mean, it's been unreal.
We were talking about that
crazy.
off camera, like just that we were like, wow, he's like really making moves quickly. How do you feel about keeping that pace, and if you do want to keep an aggressive pace like that, what's kind of next for you?
Yeah, to be honest, I really don't look at it that way as if I'm keeping a pace. I've just kind of tried to make the most of every opportunity that's crossed my face, and I feel like I'm blessed enough to have these opportunities keep coming. And all I can do from my end is I really want to put the gears in on production and really start growing that part of this art, and kind of taking edits a little deeper, being able to use different elements of production in that sense. So for me, the next step would be to really grind that. But at the same time, DJing is it's so much fun. I feel like it really brings out the best in me. I like all the qualities that you look in the mirror and it's like, I like that about myself. I feel like that comes out behind the decks, and I'm able to communicate that with the crowd. So to keep, I guess, quote unquote, the pace, keep close with you, but no, just make the most of whatever comes, and just try to position myself in ways where people that are looking for an actor, an artist, or something to do, they'll think of me, and I'd be happy to do it.
That's an amazing and thoughtful answer, my friend. I appreciate that. Where can our followers, or our audience, follow you?
And don't always depend everybody to think about you.
Yeah.
You got to stay in their face, especially today.
There's a lot of presence, a lot of artist presence. You're really right about that. Yeah, I guess I've been lucky enough to have people, have me in mind, because the Up and Up, and then what work we've done. But at the end of the day, that is the bulk of my work, and with Dayton to Daytona. So definitely taking that, Tony, you're very right about that. I feel like putting myself in people's faces could bring me to a next level, and I guess a lot of that becomes the self-confidence, the battle within. Like, are you ready to take that on? And that's definitely a question that I ask myself. Like, are you ready to try to take that next step? You don't know if you're gonna fall on your face. You don't know if you're gonna hit the ground running, but you
got to be willing to do it a couple times.
Yeah. But
so we're glad to promote people who are on their hustle and are serious about it. So please share anything that you'd like to, if you've got a SoundCloud or Mixcloud or whatever you got, Facebook page.
So the way I keep in touch with my followers the most through Instagram. I have my Instagram. It's Masin, MASIN_music, and just post a couple pictures from whatever shows I've done. Just kind of like following the journey. And my SoundCloud is also Masin_music, and on there, every mix down that I've done for all of the shows that we've talked about on air, everything that I've been a part of is on there. So
at Masin_music, he is Mason. Matt, thank you so much.
Thank you so much,
coming
David.
in studio and doing this with us.
This has been so great. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tony, for hooking it up. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
And thank you all for listening, and keep on spinning.